You are tired but not lazy, you are working but not winning, something feels wrong. Every Monday morning, millions of Americans wake up to the same quiet panic. The alarm rings, the phone lights up, the bills are waiting. The inbox is already angry, and before your feet even touch the floor, your mind is running numbers. Rent, car payment, credit cards, groceries, gas, insurance, that one medical bill you keep pretending doesn't exist. You tell yourself, I just need to work harder. So you do, you take the extra shift. You answer emails at night, you stay late, you skip the gym, you delay the dream, you convince yourself the pressure is temporary. But every year, the pressure gets smarter. It follows you into the shower. It sits beside you in traffic. It watches you scroll at midnight while your brain whispers, how is everyone else getting ahead? Here is the truth most people feel but never say out loud. You are not broke because you are weak. You are stuck because your mind has been trained to trade energy for survival instead of building control. That is the real prison, not the job, not the bills, not the economy. Not even the lack of money. The prison is the pattern. A pattern that makes you chase income, spend for relief, numb your stress, avoid your numbers, and call it normal life. This audiobook is about breaking that pattern. Not with fake motivation, not with wake up at 4 a.m. nonsense, not with another loud promise from someone standing next to a rented Lamborghini. This is about learning how money really works inside your mind, why you panic, why you procrastinate, why you overspend when you feel empty, why you stay loyal to situations that are slowly draining you, why discipline disappears exactly when you need it most. And more importantly, how to rebuild yourself from the inside out. Chapter by chapter, we are going to turn financial anxiety into financial clarity. We are going to separate effort from progress. We are going to expose the invisible habits that keep smart people stuck. And by the end, you will not just understand money better, you will understand yourself better, because the man who controls his attention controls his actions. The man who controls his actions controls his money, and the man who controls his money finally gets something most people spend their whole life chasing: peace. Chapter 1, The Paycheck Cage. There is a moment nobody talks about. It usually happens in the car. You are sitting at a red light halfway between work and home, and for a few seconds the world gets quiet. The podcast stops loading, the traffic freezes, the coffee has gone cold, and suddenly you feel it. Not sadness exactly, not anger either, something heavier. The feeling that you are doing everything you were told to do, but somehow your life still feels one emergency away from falling apart. You went to work, you paid what you could. You tried to be responsible, you avoided stupid risks, you did not quit, you did not collapse, and still peace feels expensive. This is the first psychological trap we have to name. Most people do not live inside a money system. They live inside a paycheck cage. A paycheck cage is not poverty. A paycheck cage can exist at $40,000 a year. It can exist at $90,000 a year. It can exist inside a nice apartment, a decent car, a respectable job title, and a phone full of calendar reminders. The cage is not how much you make. The cage is when your entire nervous system depends on the next deposit. That deposit becomes your oxygen. Before it arrives, you feel tense. When it hits, you feel temporary relief. A few days later, the relief disappears, then the countdown begins again. This is not financial freedom. This is financial breathing, and most Americans are not living. They are breathing from paycheck to paycheck, even when the paycheck looks good from the outside. This is where the mind starts lying to protect you. It says, when I make more, I'll relax. But then you make more and the apartment gets better, the car gets newer, the food delivery gets easier, the subscriptions multiply quietly, the credit limit rises, the lifestyle stretches. And somehow the pressure survives. But this is where most people fail. They think the problem is income. Sometimes it is. But often the deeper problem is that their life has been designed to consume every dollar they earn and every ounce of attention they have. Money comes in, stress goes down, comfort spending goes up. Reality returns, stress comes back, so they work harder, then they spend to recover from working harder. That cycle is not bad luck, that is a machine. And if you do not understand the machine, you will keep blaming yourself for being tired inside a system that was built to drain tired people. Picture a man named Marcus. Marcus is 37. He lives outside Dallas. He works in logistics for a large company. He is not careless. He is not dumb. He is not sitting around waiting for life to rescue him. He gets up at 5:45. He checks emails before breakfast. He drives 40 minutes. He manages problems all day. He eats lunch too fast. He comes home exhausted. He tells his kids he will play later. Later becomes tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes the weekend. The weekend becomes errands. On paper, Marcus is doing fine. He has a job, a house, a truck, a family, health insurance, a retirement account he barely understands. But every month he feels like he is walking across thin ice. One broken transmission, one dental emergency, one slow quarter at work, one rent increase, one unexpected bill. And suddenly the successful adult life starts looking like a stage set held up by tape. This is the part nobody sees. People see the driveway, they do not see the late-night calculator. They see the vacation photos, they do not see the credit card balance. They see the promotion, they do not see the blood pressure, they see the house. They do not see the man sitting in the garage for 10 extra minutes because he needs silence before walking inside. Marcus does what most people do when they feel trapped. He searches for more money without questioning the pattern that keeps eating it. A side hustle, a promotion, a certification, overtime, maybe trading, maybe real estate videos, maybe starting something online, and those things can help. But only if they are built on a new identity. Because if Marcus brings the same stressed mind into a bigger income, he does not become free, he becomes a higher-paid prisoner. The paycheck cage has 3 locks. The first lock is emotional spending. This is when money becomes anesthesia. You are not buying the thing, you are buying 10 minutes of not feeling behind. The takeout is not just food, it is relief. The Amazon order is not just a product, it is control. The new shoes are not just shoes, they are proof that life is not only bills and responsibility. Nobody talks about this because it sounds too simple. But millions of people are not spending because they are greedy. They are spending because they are overstimulated, underrested, lonely, and quietly disappointed with how adulthood feels. When a person has no emotional recovery system, money becomes the recovery system, and that is expensive. The second lock is avoidance. Avoidance feels harmless. I'll check the account tomorrow. I know roughly what I spent. I just don't want to stress myself out tonight. But avoidance is not peace. Avoidance is interest. The longer you avoid reality, the more expensive reality becomes. Your numbers do not disappear because you refuse to look at them. They grow in the dark. A man can spend 10 years saying, "I'm just bad with money." when the truth is he has never built the emotional strength to look at his financial life without shame. That matters, because shame makes you hide. And anything you hide from controls you. The third lock is false productivity. This one is dangerous because it looks responsible. You are busy, you are answering messages, you are taking meetings, you are tired every night. So your brain says, I must be making progress. But exhaustion is not evidence of progress. A hamster is exhausted too. The question is not, am I working hard? The question is my work increasing my control? That question changes everything. Because some work only helps you survive the week. Other work changes the structure of your life. Paying bills matters, but learning a rare skill changes your future income. Doing overtime may help this month. But building a system that earns without your constant panic changes your future nervous system. Scrolling finance videos feels useful, but tracking your real numbers for 30 days changes your relationship with truth. This is where the first transformation begins. Not with a dramatic life change, not with quitting your job, not with selling everything and moving to some cabin in Montana. It begins with one brutal sentence. I do not need more escape, I need more control. Say that slowly, because the mind will resist it. Escape feels good tonight, control feels uncomfortable tonight. Escape says you deserve this. Control says, you deserve better than needing this. That is the difference. And this is where most people fail. They try to build a better financial life while still worshiping emotional comfort. They want freedoms, but they also want to avoid every conversation, every number, every habit, and every truth that makes freedom possible. You cannot heal a life you refuse to examine. So before we talk about wealth, skills, leverage, investing, discipline, or power, we have to begin with awareness. For the next 24 hours, do not change anything. Do not judge yourself. Do not perform some fake new personality. Just watch. Watch what you buy when you are tired. Watch what you avoid when you feel stressed. Watch when you reach for your phone instead of thinking. Watch the moment your mind says, I'll deal with it later. That moment is the doorway, because the old you lives in automatic reactions. The new you begins when you can pause long enough to see the reaction before obeying it. There is real power in that pause. A man who can pause before spending can rebuild his money. A man who can pause before reacting can rebuild his relationships. A man who can pause before escaping can rebuild his discipline. And a man who can pause before believing his own fear can rebuild his entire life. So here is the first lesson. Your financial problem is not only financial, it is psychological. Money is the scoreboard, but behavior is the game. And behavior is controlled by identity, emotion, attention, and environment. If your environment keeps you distracted, your money will leak. If your emotions keep you ashamed, your money will hide. If your identity says, I'm just trying to get by, your actions will never build beyond survival. So tonight, we are not chasing more, we are waking up. Because once you see the cage, you can start studying the locks. And once you study the locks, you can build the key. Before we move forward, take a second and do something simple. In the comments, write one word that describes your current money pattern. Stress, avoidance, debt, discipline, confusion, survival. No need to explain your whole life, just name the pattern, because the pattern you can name is the pattern you can start to control. And in the next chapter, we are going to talk about the quiet reason most people stay broke even after they start earning more. It is not laziness, it is not intelligence, it is something far more subtle. Your life expands to match the version of yourself you refuse to question. Chapter 2, Thought for a Couple of Seconds. Chapter 2, The Lifestyle Trap. Why does more money feel good for only a few weeks? That question ruins a lot of comfortable lies, because most people believe their stress will disappear when the number gets bigger. A better job, a higher salary, a bigger client, a cleaner apartment, a nicer car, a little more breathing room. And for a moment, it works. The first bigger paycheck feels like oxygen. You check your account and something inside your chest finally unclenches. You buy better groceries, you pay a bill early. You maybe go out to dinner without calculating every item on the menu. You feel for the first time in a while like life might actually be turning around. Then 3 months pass. The bigger paycheck becomes normal. The old stress returns wearing better clothes. Now the bills are bigger. The habits are smoother. The expectations are higher. The lifestyle has quietly moved into the extra space. And somehow, even with more money, you are still waiting for the next deposit. This is the lifestyle trap. It does not attack broke people only, it attacks ambitious people. It attacks people who are trying. It attacks the man who finally earns more and thinks, I've suffered long enough, I deserve to enjoy this. And he is not wrong. He does deserve peace, but peace and comfort are not the same thing. Comfort is what you buy when you are tired. Peace is what you build when you are honest. That difference will determine the direction of your entire life. Picture a woman named Rachel. She is 32, living in Phoenix, working in healthcare administration. For years, she made just enough to survive. Rent took the first bite. Student loans took the second. Car insurance, groceries, gas, phone bill, and credit cards finished the meal. Then she gets promoted. Not rich, not famous, just better. Her income jumps by almost $18,000 a year. At first, she tells herself she will use the raise wisely. She will pay down debt, build savings. Finally, stop feeling like every unexpected charge is a personal attack, but then life starts whispering. You work hard, you should get the nicer apartment. You are a professional now. You need better clothes. You have been stressed for years, take the trip. You can afford the monthly payment. And every decision makes sense by itself. That is what makes the trap so dangerous. One upgrade does not destroy you. The upgraded apartment feels reasonable. The new phone feels necessary. The nicer gym feels healthy. The dinners out feel social. The weekend trip feels deserved, but this is where most people fail. They judge financial decisions one at a time. Wealth is not destroyed one decision at a time. It is destroyed by the pattern those decisions create together. Rachel does not wake up one morning and say, I would like to remain financially anxious forever. Nobody says that. She simply allows every increase in income to become an increase in identity. That is the real trap. Lifestyle inflation is not about money. It is about self-image. The mind says, if I earn more, I should look like I earn more. So income becomes costume. The car becomes evidence. The apartment becomes proof. The restaurant becomes identity. The vacation becomes a signal, and slowly, without noticing, you stop using money to build freedom and start using money to defend an image. This is the part nobody sees. A lot of people are not broke because they cannot earn. They are broke because they are emotionally attached to appearing upgraded. They do not just want comfort, they want confirmation. They want the world to see that the struggle meant something. They want their parents to know they made it, their friends to know they are not behind, their old classmates to know they are doing fine, their own wounded younger self to finally feel respected. That is human, but it is also expensive. Because when your spending is trying to heal your insecurity, there is no amount of money that will feel like enough. You can always buy the next version of I'm finally okay. A better watch, a better neighborhood, a better vacation, a better dinner photo, a better car interior, a better story to tell people who were not even paying attention. And the cruel part is most of them still are not paying attention. You are paying interest to impress ghosts. That sentence should hurt a little because almost every adult has done it. You buy something not because it solves a real problem, but because it protects you from feeling small. You spend to prove you are not struggling, then the bill arrives and makes you struggle more. That is how the cage tightens. Not through one giant mistake, through tiny emotional negotiations. Now here is the shift. A financially controlled person does not ask, "Can I afford this?" That question is too weak. A lot of things are affordable in the moment and destructive in the pattern. The stronger question is, what does this purchase train me to need? That is the question that changes your life. Because every repeated purchase teaches your nervous system a standard. If you always order food when you are tired, you train your brain to believe cooking is punishment. If you always upgrade when income rises, you train your brain to treat extra money as permission, not power. If you always spend after stress, you train your brain to connect consumption with emotional survival. And once your brain believes spending is survival, discipline feels like danger. That is why budgets fail for so many people. A budget attacks the behavior, but the emotional pattern is still alive underneath. The spreadsheet says spend less. The body says I need relief. And the body usually wins, so the answer is not to hate yourself into discipline. That never lasts. The answer is to build a new reward system. You need to make control feel better than escape. At first, it will not. At first, control feels boring. Paying off debt does not hit like a package on the doorstep. Saving money does not feel as exciting as booking a trip. Tracking expenses does not give the same dopamine as buying something new, but the rewards of control are quieter and deeper. The first time an emergency happens and you do not panic, something changes. The first time rent is due and the money is already there, something changes. The first time you check your account without fear, something changes. The first time you say no to a purchase and feel stronger instead of deprived, something changes. That is financial self-respect. Not wealth yet, self-respect. And self-respect is the foundation wealth stands on, but this is where most people fail again. They want the feeling of freedom before they practice the behavior of freedom. They want confidence before consistency. They want peace before truth. They want the result before the identity. It does not work that way. The identity comes from repeated evidence. Every time you choose control over impulse, you cast a vote. Every time you look at your numbers instead of avoiding them, you cast a vote. Every time you delay gratification, even for one day, you cast a vote. And eventually the mind starts believing, maybe I am not trapped, maybe I am becoming someone different. That is the beginning of transformation, so let's make this practical. For the next 7 days, use one rule. Do not upgrade anything. No lifestyle upgrades, no emotional upgrades. No, I deserve this purchases that are really stress in disguise. Buy what you need. Pay what must be paid, handle your responsibilities. But do not add a new expense to your identity. For 7 days, practice being bigger than the urge to prove something. And while you do that, watch what comes up. You may feel restless. You may feel bored. You may feel like you are missing out. You may feel irritated when you cannot use money to change your mood. Good. That discomfort is information. It shows you where money has been doing emotional labor that your mind has not learned to do yet. This is not about becoming cheap. Cheap people are controlled by fear. Disciplined people are guided by purpose. There is a huge difference. Being cheap says, I can't spend because I'm scared. Being disciplined says, I choose not to spend because I am building something better. That one sentence separates financial anxiety from financial power. Because the goal is not to own nothing. The goal is to stop being owned by everything. The goal is to make money serve your life instead of making your life perform for money. The paycheck cage is built by dependence. The lifestyle trap is built by desire. And when dependence and desire work together, they create the illusion that you are moving forward while your freedom stays in the same place. So before we go into skills, income, leverage, and real wealth building, we have to install this truth. More money will not save the same mind that misuses less money. A raise can help. A new job can help. A side hustle can help. But only if the person receiving the money has changed the pattern, because money magnifies. If you are avoidant, more money gives you more to avoid. If you are impulsive, more money gives you bigger impulses. If you are insecure, more money gives you more expensive ways to prove yourself. But if you are clear, disciplined, and awake, more money becomes a tool, not anesthesia. Not identity, not a costume, a tool. And tools are powerful only in the hands of someone who knows what they are building. That is the question Chapter 2 leaves you with. Are you spending to build freedom or spending to feel free for a few minutes? Because those two lives may look similar from the outside, but 10 years from now they end in completely different places. Chapter 3 thought for a couple of seconds. Chapter 3, the skill that changes the math. What if your money problem is not only spending? What if part of the problem is that your income is trapped inside the wrong game? Most people try to fix financial anxiety by cutting expenses. And yes, that matters. You should know your numbers. You should stop emotional spending. You should avoid lifestyle inflation. You should stop leaking money into habits that do not build anything. But there is another truth. You cannot shrink your way into a powerful life forever. At some point, the question changes. Not how do I spend less, but how do I become more valuable? That question scares people because it removes the fantasy. It means no one is coming. No boss is secretly planning to save you. No economy is going to perfectly arrange itself around your comfort. No motivational video is going to pay your rent. No amount of complaining about inflation will automatically increase your leverage. The world rewards value. Not effort alone, not exhaustion, not how badly you need help. Value, and that word can feel cold until you understand what it really means. Value means you can solve a problem someone cares about. The bigger the problem, the more valuable the skill. The more urgent the problem, the more valuable the skill. The fewer people who can solve it well, the more valuable you become. This is where most people fail. They try to make more money without becoming harder to replace. So they ask for raises from a weak position. They apply to jobs where hundreds of people look exactly like them on paper. They start side hustles selling the same thing everyone else is selling. They chase trends instead of building depth. And then they feel rejected by the market. But the market did not reject them personally. The market simply could not see the difference. That is brutal, but it is also freeing. Because if the market cannot see the difference, your job is not to beg louder. Your job is to become different in a way that matters. Picture a guy named Ethan. Ethan is 29 and lives in Ohio. He works customer support for a software company. He is good with people, calm under pressure, and better than most at explaining confusing things in simple language. But he feels stuck. Every week looks the same. Tickets, calls, angry customers, team meetings, metrics, more tickets. He is not poor, but he is not free. He wants more money, but every job posting that pays more seems to ask for skills he does not have. So for a long time, Ethan makes the mistake most people make. He thinks his path is to work harder at the same level. Answer more tickets, be more available, be the reliable guy, never complain, stay late when needed. And people like him, his manager appreciates him, his coworkers trust him, but his income barely moves. Why? Because being reliable is respected, but being rare is paid. That sentence matters. Reliability keeps you employed. Rarity increases your price. Ethan's life changes when he stops asking, "How can I be a better employee?" and starts asking, "What painful problem exists near me that almost nobody wants to solve?" He notices something. The support team keeps seeing the same customer problems again and again. The product team is overwhelmed. The sales team keeps promising features that customers misunderstand. The documentation is outdated. The company is losing hours every week because nobody has translated customer confusion into clear internal systems. So Ethan begins studying, not randomly. He does not try to learn everything. He learns one bridge skill. Customer experience plus data plus communication. He learns how to organize support tickets into patterns. He learns basic spreadsheet analysis. He learns how product teams prioritize feedback. He learns how to write clean internal reports. He learns how to turn messy complaints into useful business intelligence. At first, nobody cares. This is the part nobody sees. The early stage of becoming valuable feels invisible. You are learning after work while other people are relaxing. You are watching tutorials that make you feel stupid. You are practicing skills that do not pay you yet. You are building a version of yourself that the world has not noticed. And because there is no applause, most people quit. They mistake silence for failure, but silence is often just the sound of roots growing. 3 months later, Ethan sends a short report to his manager, not a complaint. Not a dramatic proposal, just a clean breakdown. Here are the top 5 customer issues this month. Here is how often they appeared. Here is how much time they cost the support team. Here is which issue is probably hurting renewals. Here is the documentation update that could reduce tickets. Suddenly, Ethan is not just answering problems. He is seeing patterns. That is a different level. A few months later, he is invited into meetings he never used to attend. Then he helps build a customer feedback dashboard. Then he moves into a customer operations role. Then his income changes, not because he begged, because his position changed. He stopped being a replaceable worker inside a queue and became a person who could reduce chaos for the company. That is what a valuable skill does. It changes how people see you. But this is where most people fail again. They hear build a skill and immediately chase whatever looks hot. Coding, AI, sales, copywriting, real estate, trading, cybersecurity, video editing, digital marketing. Some of those can be powerful. But a skill is not valuable because the internet is yelling about it. A skill is valuable when it sits at the intersection of three things: a painful problem, a paying market. Your ability to become unusually good. You do not need to love the skill at first. Love is overrated at the beginning. At the beginning, you need evidence. Evidence that the problem is real. Evidence that people pay to solve it. Evidence that you can improve faster than average if you focus. Passion often comes later. Passion comes when you stop feeling helpless. Passion comes when your competence grows. Passion comes when people start trusting you with bigger problems. Nobody feels passionate when they feel powerless. So do not wait for passion to rescue you. Build competence until your confidence has somewhere to stand. Now let's bring this back to the core problem. Financial anxiety grows when you feel like your income depends entirely on permission. Permission from a boss, permission from a schedule, permission from one company, permission from one fragile system. A valuable skill gives you options. Options calm the nervous system. When you know you can solve a problem in the market, you walk differently. You are still responsible. You still work. You still face pressure. But something inside changes because you are no longer just hoping to be chosen. You are building reasons to be needed. And needed people have leverage. So the question is not, what skill should I learn because everyone online says it is profitable? The better question is, what problem can I learn to solve that makes someone money, saves someone time, or removes serious pain? That question is a flashlight. Use it at work. Look around. Where is the confusion? Where is the delay? Where are customers angry? Where is money being wasted? Where do managers keep repeating the same complaint? Where does everyone say, "That's just how it is"? That phrase is gold. "That's just how it is" usually means there is an unsolved problem people have learned to tolerate. And tolerated problems are opportunities wearing ugly clothes. But do not try to solve everything. That is another trap. The distracted person collects skills. The disciplined person compounds one. Pick one problem, pick one skill path, give it 90 days of serious attention, not fantasy attention, not saving videos, not buying courses you never finish. Not making a beautiful Notion dashboard and calling it progress. Real attention, 1 hour a day, practice, study, apply, document, repeat, and as you build, start collecting proof. Proof beats confidence, create small examples. Write short case studies, track before and after results, save screenshots of improvements, build a simple portfolio. Offer to solve small problems where you already work. You are not trying to look impressive. You are trying to become undeniable. Before we move to the next chapter, do something simple. Comment one skill you could build over the next 90 days that would make you more valuable. Not 10 skills. 1. And if you do not know yet, write, "Finding my skill." That is not weakness. That is the first honest step. Because once you stop chasing money directly and start building the ability to solve valuable problems, the math begins to change. You are no longer only trying to survive the next paycheck. You are building the person who will no longer need to panic when the paycheck is late. That is the beginning of power. Chapter 4, Thought for a couple of seconds. Chapter 4, The attention leak. Where does your future disappear? Not in one dramatic failure, not in one bad decision, not in one missed opportunity. Most of the time, your future disappears in small moments you barely notice. 5 minutes here, 20 minutes there, an hour before bed, a morning lost to scrolling, a lunch break spent comparing your life to strangers. A Sunday that starts with good intentions and ends with nothing changed. And because none of it feels serious in the moment, you do not defend yourself. That is the trap. A distracted life does not feel like self-sabotage. It feels normal. You wake up and reach for your phone before your mind has even formed a thought. You check messages, then notifications, then news, then one video, then another. Then the algorithm hands you someone richer, fitter, calmer, better dressed, more successful, more disciplined, more alive. And before your day begins, your nervous system has already been trained to feel behind. This is one of the hidden reasons financial anxiety keeps growing. Your attention is being spent before your money is even touched. People talk about budgeting dollars, almost nobody talks about budgeting focus. But focus is the source of every future dollar you will ever earn. You need focus to learn a valuable skill. You need focus to track your numbers. You need focus to make better decisions. You need focus to stop reacting emotionally. You need focus to build anything that frees you. Without focus, you become easy to control. By apps, by ads, by stress, by impulse, by fear. By whatever loud thing enters your mind first. That is not weakness. That is design. Modern life is built to fracture attention because fractured attention is profitable. A focused person is hard to sell to, a distracted person buys relief. This is where most people fail. They think distraction is a time problem. It is not. Distraction is an identity problem, because every time you abandon what matters for what is easy, you teach your mind, my future can wait. And the mind believes what you repeatedly prove. Picture a man named Jordan. Jordan is 26, living in Atlanta, working an entry-level IT job. He wants more. He knows he needs to build skills. He has a plan to study cybersecurity after work. He even bought a course and made a schedule. Monday night, he sits down at 7:30. Laptop open, notebook ready, phone beside him. He studies for 8 minutes, then his phone lights up. A friend sent a meme, he checks it. Then he checks Instagram. Then a video about discipline appears which feels related enough to justify watching. Then a finance clip. Then a podcast highlight. Then some guy explaining how he makes $30,000 a month from a laptop. By 9:15, Jordan has consumed 90 minutes of success content and completed almost none of the work that would make him successful. But here is the cruel part. He feels like he did something. That is the danger of motivational consumption. It gives you the emotional reward of progress without the evidence of progress. It makes you feel awake while keeping you passive. This is the part nobody sees. A lot of people are not failing because they lack information. They are failing because information has become their favorite form of avoidance. They watch videos about money instead of looking at their money. They listen to podcasts about discipline instead of practicing discipline. They save posts about confidence instead of doing the uncomfortable thing that would create confidence. They confuse exposure with execution. And the internet loves this because a person who is always preparing but never changing is the perfect customer. Always searching, always clicking, always almost ready. The attention leak is not just wasted time. It is wasted self-trust. Every night Jordan says, "Tomorrow I'll really focus." Then tomorrow comes and he breaks the promise again. After enough broken promises, he stops believing himself. That is when discipline starts feeling fake. Not because discipline is fake, because his own word has lost weight inside his mind. This is why rebuilding attention is not a productivity hack. It is a spiritual repair. You are teaching yourself that when you say something matters, you will protect it. That is where self-respect comes from, not from affirmations, from keeping small promises when nobody is watching. But this is where most people fail again. They try to fix distraction with intensity. They delete every app. They make a perfect schedule. They buy a planner. They declare a new era of their life at 1 a.m. and by Wednesday they are back in the same loop. Why? Because intensity is easy to perform when you are emotional. Systems are harder. The distracted mind does not need a dramatic speech. It needs friction. Friction is anything that makes the bad habit harder and the good habit easier. Do not sleep with your phone beside the bed. Do not study with notifications on. Do not keep your financial apps hidden behind shame. Do not place entertainment one tap away from your goals. Your environment is either training your future or stealing it. There is no neutral room. If the phone is beside you, it is part of the conversation. If the TV is already on, your attention has been claimed. If junk spending apps are saved and logged in, impulse has a shortcut. If your study material is buried, discipline has to fight too many doors. Most people blame their willpower while living inside an environment designed to defeat it. That is like blaming yourself for getting wet while standing in the rain. Step out of the rain, make focus easier, make escape annoying. This does not need to be extreme. You start with 1 protected hour. 1 hour a day where your future gets your full attention. No phone, no tabs, no background noise, no pretending, no motivational browsing, just 1 hour of building, skill practice, budget review, job applications. Portfolio work, reading, planning, creating, studying. 1 hour does not sound like much. That is why it works. The ego wants a heroic plan. The future wants consistency. 1 protected hour a day becomes 7 hours a week. 7 hours a week becomes 30 hours a month. 30 hours a month becomes 360 hours a year. That is not a hobby. That is a transformation hiding in plain sight. A man who gives 360 focused hours to 1 valuable skill is not the same man a year later. His mind is different. His options are different. His confidence is different. His financial future is different. Not because he got lucky, because he stopped letting the world spend his attention for him. But attention is not only about work. It is also about emotional control. The distracted person reacts to every feeling. Boredom becomes scrolling. Stress becomes spending. Loneliness becomes texting the wrong person. Fear becomes procrastination. Comparison becomes self-hatred. The focused person learns to sit inside a feeling without obeying it immediately. That pause is power, because most bad financial decisions happen in emotional weather. You are tired, so you buy convenience. You are lonely, so you buy attention. You are ashamed, so you avoid your numbers. You are anxious, so you chase quick money. You are bored, so you consume. And each decision feels small. But small decisions repeated daily become a life. This is why attention is the first real form of wealth. Before you can control money, you must control the mind that handles money. Before you can build income, you must control the focus required to build skill. Before you can escape the paycheck cage, you must stop handing your strongest hours to things that will not remember your name tomorrow. So tonight, look honestly at your day. Where does your attention leak? Morning phone, late night scrolling, random videos, online arguments, shopping apps, constant checking, fake productivity. Do not shame yourself, study yourself. Shame says, I am broken. Study says there is a pattern, and patterns can be redesigned. Your next level will not arrive because you found more time. It will arrive when you stop wasting the time you already have. The future is not built in years, it is built in protected hours, and once you learn to protect 1 hour, you can protect a second, then a morning, then a weekend, then an entire season of your life. That is how control returns, quietly, daily, without applause, and once your attention stops leaking, your money starts telling the truth. Because the same mind that can focus for 1 hour can track 1 budget. The same mind that can delay 1 impulse can avoid 1 bad purchase. The same mind that can finish 1 lesson can build 1 rare skill. And the same mind that can keep 1 promise can eventually rebuild everything. Chapter 4 ends with this truth: your attention is your first currency. Spend it carelessly and your money will follow. Protect it fiercely and your life will begin to compound. Chapter 5 thought for a couple of seconds. Chapter 5, the shame that keeps you stuck. Why do smart people avoid the truth? Not because they are stupid, not because they do not care, not because they enjoy being stressed. They avoid the truth because the truth feels personal. A bank balance does not look like a number when you are ashamed. It looks like evidence. Evidence that you failed. Evidence that you are behind. Evidence that you should have known better. Evidence that everyone else somehow figured life out while you were still trying to breathe. So you avoid it. You do not open the credit card app. You do not check the full statement. You do not calculate the real debt. You do not look at the subscriptions, you do not add up the food delivery, you do not ask how much interest you paid last month, and for a few hours avoidance feels like relief. But it is not relief, it is sedation. The problem is still there, only now it is growing quietly in the dark. This is one of the most dangerous patterns in money psychology. People do not stay financially stuck only because they lack strategy. They stay stuck because shame interrupts awareness, and without awareness, strategy has nowhere to land. You can watch every financial freedom video on the internet. You can read every money book. You can save every budgeting template. You can tell yourself this is the year everything changes. But if you cannot look directly at your real numbers without collapsing into shame, you will keep escaping before the work begins. This is where most people fail. They think financial discipline begins with motivation. It does not. Financial discipline begins with emotional tolerance, the ability to sit in discomfort without running. The ability to see a number you do not like and not turn it into a story about your worth. The ability to say, "This is where I am," without adding, "This is who I am." That separation is everything, because your debt is not your identity. Your income is not your identity. Your overdraft is not your identity. Your past mistakes are not your identity. They are data. Painful data maybe, but still data, and data can guide you. Shame only traps you. Picture a man named Chris. Chris is 41, living in New Jersey, married with 2 kids. He makes decent money. From the outside, he looks responsible. He works in operations. He owns a home. He coaches his son's baseball team. He is the kind of guy people assume has things handled. But every month, Chris feels a quiet dread around the 20th. That is when the bills start stacking faster than the checking account can keep up. The mortgage clears. The car payment hits. The utilities pull automatically. The credit card minimums arrive. The grocery bill is higher than expected again. Chris tells himself he will sit down this weekend and figure it out. But Saturday comes and the house is loud. The kids need rides. The lawn needs attention. His wife asks about summer plans, his phone buzzes, a game is on, and part of him feels relieved. Because busyness gives him permission to avoid the one conversation he does not want to have with himself. By Sunday night, nothing has changed. He goes to bed with that familiar pressure in his chest, not panic, something worse, quiet defeat. This is the part nobody sees. Financial shame does not always look like crisis. Sometimes it looks like a normal adult doing normal adult things while carrying a private fear he cannot explain. Chris is not hiding because he is dishonest. He is hiding because looking at the numbers would force him to feel the gap between the man he wants to be and the situation he is actually in. That gap hurts. So he protects himself from the pain, but the protection becomes the prison, because every month he avoids the truth, he loses another month of correction, and every month he loses correction, the shame becomes stronger. This is how avoidance compounds, not just financially, emotionally. The longer you avoid something, the more powerful it feels. A bill becomes a monster, a conversation becomes a threat, a spreadsheet becomes a courtroom. A budget becomes a judgment, but when you finally look, something surprising happens. The monster becomes smaller, not because the problem disappears, but because uncertainty is often more painful than reality. Reality may be hard, but at least reality has edges. You can measure it, you can plan around it, you can negotiate with it, you can change it. Fear has no edges. Fear expands to fill every room you give it. That is why the first act of financial control is not earning more. It is looking without drama, looking without self-hatred, looking without turning one bad month into a life sentence. You sit down, you open the accounts. You write the numbers. Income, fixed expenses, debt, minimum payments, interest rates, subscriptions, food, transportation, random spending, savings, no performance, no pretending, no inspirational music required, just truth. At first, it may feel ugly, good. Truth often feels ugly before it feels freeing. But this is where most people fail again. They look once, feel bad, and never look again. That is not awareness. That is emotional drive-by. Real awareness is a rhythm, a weekly money meeting with yourself. Same day, same time, same place. No judgment, no hiding, no vague guesses. You review what came in, you review what went out. You ask one question. What is my money telling me about my behavior? That question is powerful because it moves you from shame to study. Shame says I am terrible with money. Study says I spend more when I am tired. Shame says I will never get ahead. Study says my weekends are where the leaks happen. Shame says I am failing. Study says my fixed expenses are too high for my current income. Do you see the difference? Shame attacks the person. Study examines the pattern, and once you see the pattern, you can change the pattern. This is how financial self-mastery begins, not with a perfect budget, with a calmer relationship to truth. Because the truth does not need you to feel ready, it only needs you to stop running. Now let's make this practical. Tonight, choose one number you have been avoiding, just one, not your entire financial life, one number. Your total credit card debt, your checking account balance, your monthly food spending, your subscriptions, your car payment, your savings, your interest rate. Find the number, write it down, look at it for 10 seconds without insulting yourself. That is the exercise. It sounds small because the ego wants something dramatic, but the nervous system changes through repeated proof. Every time you look at reality and survive, shame loses power. Every time you face a number without spiraling, you teach your mind, I can handle truth. And a person who can handle truth can change anything. Before we continue, do something simple. Comment the word truth if you are ready to stop hiding from your numbers, not because your situation is perfect, not because you have everything figured out, but because you are done letting shame manage your life from the shadows. Because here is what nobody tells you: the numbers you avoid are usually the numbers that can set you free. They show you where your energy is going. They show you what your habits are costing. They show you what must be reduced, rebuilt, renegotiated, or released. They show you where the cage is weakest. And once you see the weak point, you can begin to break it. So chapter 5 ends with this truth. You do not need to feel proud of your situation to face it. You only need to be honest, because honesty is the first form of control, and control is the first form of freedom. Chapter 6, thought for a couple of seconds. Chapter 6, the debt of delay. What is procrastination really costing you? Not emotionally, not spiritually, financially, because most people think delay is neutral. They tell themselves, I'll handle it later. Later sounds harmless. Later sounds responsible enough. Later sounds like a plan that simply has not started yet, but later is not neutral. Later has a price. And the longer you wait, the more expensive your life becomes, not all at once. Slowly, quietly, a late fee here, a higher balance there, another month of interest. Another year in the same job, another skill you meant to learn. Another conversation you avoided, another opportunity that passed because you were still getting ready. That is the debt of delay. It is not always listed on your credit report, but it shows up everywhere. In your bank account, in your confidence, in your health, in your relationships. In the version of yourself you keep promising to become someday, and someday is dangerous, because someday feels motivational while keeping you exactly where you are. Picture a man named Daniel. Daniel is 34, living in Chicago. He works in sales support for a medical supply company. He is smart, friendly, and capable. Everyone who knows him says the same thing: you could do more. And Daniel knows it. That is the painful part. He knows he could earn more. He knows he could get healthier. He knows he should track his money. He knows he should stop carrying credit card balances. He knows he should finally learn the skill that would move him into a better role. But Daniel keeps waiting for the right version of himself to arrive. The focused version, the disciplined version. The version with a clean apartment, a perfect morning routine, no stress, no distractions, and a magical Monday where everything finally feels possible. So he waits. At night, he watches videos about changing his life. He saves advice, he makes notes, he tells himself, I'm close. But his actual life does not move. This is where most people fail. They confuse preparing with becoming. Preparation feels safe because it keeps failure theoretical. As long as you are still researching, still planning, still thinking, still waiting for confidence, you do not have to face the truth of effort. You do not have to be bad at the beginning. You do not have to risk being judged. You do not have to discover that the first version of your plan is messy. So the mind creates a beautiful excuse: I'm not ready yet. But readiness is often fear wearing a professional outfit. Nobody feels ready to change the pattern that has been protecting them. The spender does not feel ready to stop spending. The avoider does not feel ready to look at the numbers. The distracted person does not feel ready to sit in silence. The underpaid worker does not feel ready to ask for more, apply elsewhere, or build proof. Readiness is not the doorway. Action is, and action creates readiness behind you, not in front of you. Daniel's delay has a pattern. Every time he thinks about checking his debt, he feels shame, so he waits. Every time he thinks about applying for a better job, he feels underqualified, so he waits. Every time he thinks about studying after work, he feels tired, so he waits. Every time he thinks about having a hard conversation with himself, he feels overwhelmed, so he waits. And because waiting feels easier than discomfort, he calls waiting being realistic. But this is the part nobody sees. Delay is not usually laziness. Delay is emotional protection. You are not avoiding the task. You are avoiding the feeling attached to the task. You do not avoid budgeting because numbers are impossible. You avoid budgeting because numbers trigger shame. You do not avoid learning a skill because tutorials are unavailable. You avoid learning because being a beginner attacks your ego. You do not avoid applying for better jobs because every company is impossible. You avoid applying because rejection might confirm what fear already whispers. That is why simple advice does not work. Just start. Just do it. Stop making excuses. Those lines sound strong, but they do not explain the psychology. People delay because the current pain feels familiar while the new pain feels uncertain. And the brain often chooses familiar pain over uncertain freedom. Read that again. The brain often chooses familiar pain over uncertain freedom. That is why a person can hate their situation and still defend it. The job is stressful but known. The debt is heavy but known. The spending habit is costly but known. The distraction loop is embarrassing but known. Change requires walking into a room where you do not yet know who you are, and that terrifies the old identity. So what breaks the cycle? Not a massive life overhaul. A smaller weapon, immediate proof. You need to prove to your brain that action is survivable. Not someday, today, not for 6 hours, for 10 minutes. 10 honest minutes can break a spell that 10 years of thinking could not break. Open the account for 10 minutes. Study one lesson for 10 minutes. Write one job bullet for 10 minutes. Clean one corner for 10 minutes. Send one message for 10 minutes. Walk outside for 10 minutes. Plan tomorrow for 10 minutes. The point is not the size. The point is evidence. Your brain needs proof that you can move while uncomfortable. That is the entire game, because once you can act while uncomfortable, you are no longer owned by mood. And a person who is no longer owned by mood becomes dangerous in the best way. They can build, they can repair, they can face truth. They can delay pleasure, they can learn, they can change, but this is where most people fail again. They start too big because they want the new identity instantly. They make a dramatic plan, 2 hours of studying every night, no spending for a month. Gym 6 days a week, wake up at 5 a.m. forever, launch the business this weekend. And when life interrupts, the plan collapses. Then they say, see, I knew I couldn't do it. But the problem was not their potential. The problem was their design. You do not rebuild a stressed nervous system with punishment. You rebuild it with proof, small proof, repeated proof, boring proof. The kind nobody claps for. Daniel changes when he stops trying to transform his whole life in one emotional burst. He starts with one rule. Every night at 8:30 before entertainment, he gives 10 minutes to the life he claims he wants. That is it, 10 minutes. The first night he checks one credit card balance. It feels awful, but he survives. The second night he writes down the minimum payment and interest rate. The third night he cancels 2 subscriptions. The fourth night, he watches one lesson for a certification that could move him into a higher-paying role. The fifth night, he updates 3 lines on his resume. Nothing cinematic happens. No music swells. No one congratulates him, but something important begins. His self-image changes from "I avoid hard things" to "I face one hard thing per day." That is not small. That is identity surgery, because your life does not change when you feel motivated. Your life changes when your evidence changes. Every small action becomes a receipt, and eventually your mind has to admit, "I am becoming someone who follows through." This is the quiet beginning of discipline, not discipline as punishment, discipline as self-trust. You do what you said you would do, and a broken piece of your confidence comes back. You do it again, and another piece comes back. You do it again, and suddenly the future feels less imaginary. That is how delay loses power. Not through guilt, through motion. So here is the lesson of Chapter 6. Delay is expensive because it steals compound interest from your life. Money compounds. Skills compound, health compounds, confidence compounds, avoidance compounds too. Every month you delay learning a valuable skill, someone else gets better. Every month you delay tracking your money, your habits get stronger. Every month you delay paying attention, your distractions get deeper roots. Every month you delay becoming honest, shame gets louder. But the reverse is also true. Every day you act, even briefly, the new life gets a little stronger. One 10-minute action will not save you. But one 10-minute action repeated long enough will introduce you to a person you have never met before. A calmer person, a clearer person, a stronger person, a person who does not need perfect conditions to begin. And that is the person who eventually wins, because the future does not belong to the person who dreams the hardest. It belongs to the person who starts before they feel ready. So tonight, do not plan your entire comeback. Do not redesign your whole life. Do not wait for a perfect mood. Pick one delayed action, one number, one email, one lesson, one walk, one conversation, one page, one payment, one decision. Give it 10 minutes, that is all. Because when you stop feeding delay, you start starving the old identity. And once the old identity gets weaker, the cage does too. Chapter 7, thought for a couple of seconds. Chapter 7, the emergency that reveals you what happens when life punches through the plan. Not the big dramatic disaster, the ordinary one. The tire blows out. The rent goes up. The hours get cut. The dentist says it cannot wait. The car makes that sound. The company announces restructuring. Your kid needs something expensive by Friday. And suddenly the version of you that felt fine yesterday is exposed. That is the terrifying thing about emergencies. They do not only reveal your bank balance, they reveal your system. They reveal whether you were building stability or just hoping nothing bad happened. And most people are not prepared for life. They are prepared for life to behave. That is a very different thing, because life will not behave. Life does not care that you were finally catching up. Life does not care that you had a plan. Life does not care that you were tired. Life does not care that this was supposed to be your month. It just arrives. A bill, a call, a problem, a delay, a loss. A surprise, and in that moment the question becomes simple. Do you have margin or do you have panic? Margin is the space between your life and disaster, not luxury, not wealth, space. A few $100s that keeps a flat tire from becoming credit card debt. A few weeks of expenses that keeps a job loss from becoming desperation. A calm mind that keeps one bad day from turning into 10 bad decisions. Margin is not exciting. Nobody posts a screenshot of margin. Nobody gets applause for having room, but margin is one of the most powerful forms of self-respect in adulthood. Because margin means your future is not constantly being held hostage by the next inconvenience. Picture a woman named Nicole. Nicole is 35, living in Tampa, working as an office manager for a construction company. She is organized at work, dependable, and the person everyone calls when something needs to get handled. But in her own life, she has no margin, not because she is careless, because every dollar already has a job before it arrives. Rent, car, groceries, phone, utilities, childcare, minimum payments, gas, food on the nights she is too exhausted to cook. Then one Thursday morning her car refuses to start. That is all. No tragedy, no dramatic collapse. Just a dead car in an apartment parking lot at 7:12 a.m. But because Nicole has no margin, this small event becomes a full-body emergency. She misses work. She pays for a tow. She calls the mechanic. She checks her account. She feels her stomach drop. She uses the credit card she had promised not to use again. By noon, the car problem has become a money problem. By evening, the money problem has become an anxiety problem. By night, the anxiety problem has become a relationship problem because she snaps at someone who was only trying to help. This is where most people fail. They think an emergency fund is about money. It is not only about money. It is about emotional protection. It is about keeping one problem from becoming 5. Without margin, every inconvenience multiplies. A car repair becomes debt. Debt becomes shame. Shame becomes avoidance. Avoidance becomes more interest. Interest becomes pressure. Pressure becomes emotional spending. Emotional spending becomes another emergency waiting to happen. The original problem may have cost $600, but the chain reaction can cost years of peace. This is the part nobody sees. Financial instability makes people look less disciplined than they really are. When you have no margin, your brain lives in survival mode. Survival mode does not make elegant decisions. It makes fast decisions. It chooses relief over strategy. It chooses the minimum payment over the hard conversation. It chooses the payday loan, the credit card, the bad deal, the desperate yes, the toxic job, the cheap fix that breaks again later. Not because you are weak, because panic narrows the mind. A calm brain can plan. A panicked brain grabs. That is why building margin is not optional. It is the foundation before investing, before luxury, before status, before upgrades. Before pretending everything is okay, you need space. At first, the space may be tiny, $20, $50, $100 hidden from your own impulses. That may not sound powerful. But the first layer of margin is not about solving every emergency. It is about proving you can create separation between you and chaos. Most people wait until they can save a lot. That is another delay trap. They say, when I make more, I'll build an emergency fund. But if you cannot protect $25 now, more income will not automatically make you protective. The habit comes first. The amount grows later. But this is where most people fail again. They build a little margin, then spend it on something that was not an emergency. A sale is not an emergency. A weekend trip is not an emergency. A bad mood is not an emergency. A dinner you cannot afford is not an emergency. A new phone because yours feels old is not an emergency. The emergency fund must become sacred, Not because money is sacred, because peace is. You are not protecting dollars. You are protecting the version of yourself who does not panic. That version deserves a defense. So create a rule. Emergency money is only for emergencies that affect health, housing, transportation, safety, or income. That is it. If it does not threaten your ability to live, work, or stay safe, it is probably not an emergency. It is a desire wearing emergency clothes, and desires are clever. They know how to sound urgent. You need this now? This price won't last. You've been working hard. You can replace the money later. Maybe you can, but every time you steal from your margin, you teach your nervous system that chaos is allowed back inside. You worked too hard to build that wall. Do not break it because your mood got loud. Nicole changes when she stops trying to fix everything and starts building one wall. She opens a separate savings account. Not connected to her debit card, not easy to touch. She names it Do Not Panic. That name matters, because every time she transfers money into it, she remembers what she is really buying, not a number, a calmer future. The first month she saves $80. It feels almost embarrassing, but then something strange happens. She starts to feel proud. Not because $80 changes her life, because her behavior changed. The second month, she saves $140. The third month, she gets a small tax refund and puts half away before her emotions can negotiate with it. 6 months later, another car issue happens. This time, she is annoyed, but she is not destroyed. She pays the bill, she goes home. She sleeps. That is what progress looks like sometimes, not becoming rich overnight, just having a problem and not becoming a different person because of it. That is freedom in its earliest form. Before we move forward, take a second and comment one word. Margin. Write it if you are done letting every surprise become a crisis. Write it if you are ready to build even a small wall between your life and panic. Because the first goal is not to impress anyone. The first goal is to become harder to knock down, and that is what margin does. It makes you less fragile. A fragile person needs everything to go right. A strong person has prepared for something to go wrong. That is the difference. And once you understand that, you stop living like stability is luck. You start treating stability like architecture. You build the wall, you protect the wall, you make the wall taller. Then, when life throws the same problems it has always thrown, they do not hit the same way. They still hurt. They still cost, they still interrupt. But they do not own you. Chapter 7 ends with this truth: an emergency fund is not a pile of money, it is a boundary between one bad day and a broken month. A boundary between stress and panic. A boundary between the old version of you who reacted and the new version of you who prepared. Chapter 8 Thought for a second. Chapter 8 The income ceiling. Why do some people work harder every year and still feel trapped? Because effort has a ceiling. That sounds unfair, but it is true. There is only so much energy inside one body, only so many hours in one day, only so many tasks one person can carry before the mind begins to crack. And most people are trying to build freedom with the one resource that runs out fastest: their own effort. They wake up earlier, they stay later, they take more calls, they accept more responsibility. They say yes when their body is begging for no, and at first it works. They earn a little more, they get noticed, they become useful, they become trusted. But then the reward becomes the trap. Because the more dependable they become, the more the world loads onto them. And suddenly, the person who wanted freedom has built a life where everyone needs them, Everything depends on them and nothing moves unless they touch it. That is not success. That is a higher quality cage. This is where most people fail. They confuse being needed with being free. Being needed feels powerful at first. People call you, they ask your opinion, they rely on you. They say, "I don't know what we'd do without you." That sentence feels good, until you realize it also means you cannot step away. You cannot rest without guilt. You cannot disconnect without problems piling up. You cannot get sick without the whole system wobbling. You cannot grow because your current role keeps eating all your future energy. A life that depends entirely on your constant presence is not stable. It is fragile. Picture a man named Anthony. Anthony is 39 and lives in Sacramento. He works as a project manager for a remodeling company. He is good at his job, really good. He knows the clients. He knows the crews. He knows the vendors. He knows which inspector is strict. He knows which subcontractor always runs late. He knows how to calm angry homeowners when a kitchen remodel turns into chaos. The company depends on him. And because he is responsible, he carries it. At first, Anthony feels proud. He is the guy who fixes things. But over time, the pride turns into pressure. His phone rings during dinner. His weekends disappear into quick updates. His vacation is just work with a better view. His wife stops asking if he is free because she already knows the answer. He earns decent money, but he has no space. And when he asks himself the terrifying question, "Could I stop for 2 weeks?" the answer is obvious. No, everything would fall apart. This is the part nobody sees. Some people are not broke because they lack work ethic. They are stuck because their work ethic has been used to build a system that consumes them. Anthony does not need more hustle. He needs leverage. Leverage means one action creates more output than your effort alone could produce. Without leverage, you carry everything by hand. With leverage, you build tools, systems, relationships, assets, and processes that carry part of the weight for you. That is the shift. The old question is, how can I do more? The better question is, how can I make what I do produce more without requiring more of me? That question changes everything. Because more effort usually creates more exhaustion. But more leverage creates more freedom. There are 4 basic forms of leverage. The first is skill leverage. This is when your knowledge becomes so valuable that 1 hour of your thinking is worth more than 10 hours of basic labor. A nurse practitioner, a senior software engineer, a tax strategist, a cybersecurity analyst, a strong sales closer, a great operator, these people are not paid only for time. They are paid for judgment. They see what others miss. They prevent expensive mistakes. They create outcomes that matter. The second is system leverage. This is when you stop relying on memory and willpower and start building repeatable processes, checklists, templates. Automation, standard operating procedures, calendars, scripts, dashboards, workflows, boring words, powerful results. A system is a decision you only have to make once. And every decision you do not have to remake saves mental energy for something higher. But this is where most people fail again. They resist systems because systems feel slow at first. They say, "It's faster if I just do it myself." And for one task they are right, but for a repeated task they are building a prison. If you do something 10 times, build a process. If someone asks the same question 5 times, write the answer once. If your money leaks in the same category every month, create a rule before the month begins. If your workday keeps collapsing into chaos, stop trusting your mood and start designing your environment. Systems are how tired people protect their future selves. The third form is people leverage. This does not always mean hiring employees. It means learning how to create value through other people without trying to control everything yourself. At work, this might mean training someone below you so you can move into higher-level problems. In business, it might mean delegating tasks that drain your attention. At home, it might mean having honest conversations about shared responsibilities instead of silently carrying resentment. People leverage requires trust, and trust requires letting go of the fantasy that nobody can do anything as well as you. Maybe they cannot at first, that is okay. The goal is not perfection, the goal is capacity. A person who refuses to delegate protects quality in the short term and destroys freedom in the long term. The fourth form is asset leverage. This is when something you build or own continues working after your direct effort stops. A rental property, a digital product, a useful YouTube channel, a software tool, a business process, a portfolio, a newsletter, a course, a machine, a brand, a piece of intellectual property, not magic, not passive income fantasy. Assets take work, but the best assets separate income from constant presence. That separation is the beginning of real financial calm, because if every dollar requires your immediate labor, then rest becomes expensive. And when rest feels expensive, people start treating their own body like a machine they cannot afford to turn off. That is how burnout becomes normal. Anthony's life begins to change when he stops trying to be the hero of every project. He starts writing down the problems that repeat: client onboarding, material delays, crew updates, change orders, inspection reminders, payment schedules. At first, it feels annoying. He tells himself, "I already know all this." But that is exactly the problem. All the knowledge lives inside him, so he becomes the bottleneck. Over the next 2 months, he builds simple systems: a client update template, a project checklist, a shared calendar, a vendor contact sheet, a weekly crew report, a process for change orders before they become arguments. Nothing fancy, no dramatic transformation, just quiet architecture. Then something happens. People stop calling him for every tiny thing, not completely, but enough. The company still values him, but now his value is not only in fixing chaos. His value is in reducing chaos. That is a higher level. Because the beginner solves problems, the professional prevents problems, and the person with leverage builds systems where fewer problems need them personally. That is the income ceiling breaking. Not because Anthony suddenly works twice as hard, because his work starts multiplying. This is the lesson: if your money depends only on your effort, your income will always fight your exhaustion. You need skills that increase your value. You need systems that protect your attention. You need people who can carry parts of the mission. You need assets that keep producing when your hands are not on the wheel, not all at once. Do not turn this into another overwhelming fantasy. Start with one repeated problem, one at work, at home, in your money, in your schedule, in your side hustle. Ask yourself, why does this keep requiring me? Then build one small system to reduce the need. That is leverage in its earliest form, not glamorous, but powerful, because freedom is not built by doing everything. Freedom is built by designing your life so everything does not always require you. Chapter 8 ends with this truth. Hard work can help you survive. Leverage helps you escape. And the moment you stop asking, how can I carry more, and start asking, how can I build something that carries with me, you begin to move from exhaustion to control. Chapter 9 Thought for Sevens. Chapter 9 The Calm Money System. Why do some people make money feel simple? Not because their life is perfect, not because they never get stressed, not because they were born with some magical financial gene. They have something most people never build: a system. And that word sounds boring until you understand what it really means. A system is what protects you when motivation disappears. A system is what keeps working when your emotions get loud. A system is what stops one bad mood from becoming one bad month. Because without a system, every financial decision becomes a negotiation with your weakest moment. Should I save this? Should I spend this? Should I pay extra on the debt? Should I check the balance? Should I order food again? Should I wait until next week? Should I pretend I forgot? That is exhausting. Most people are not financially irresponsible. They are financially undecided. They make too many money decisions while tired, hungry, stressed, distracted, lonely, embarrassed, or emotionally drained. And when the brain is tired, it does not choose the future. It chooses relief. This is where most people fail. They try to use willpower for things that should have been automated, simplified, or decided in advance. Willpower is not a financial plan. Willpower is a battery. And by 8:47 p.m. after work, traffic, family, messages, problems, and the quiet disappointment of another stressful day, that battery is almost dead. So the old pattern wins, not because you are weak, because the system was never built. Picture a man named Victor. Victor is 43, living in Las Vegas, working as a restaurant general manager. His income is decent but unpredictable. Some months include bonuses, some months do not. His hours are long, his stress is high. And because his schedule changes constantly, his financial life feels like a pile of loose papers in the wind. He pays bills when he remembers. He saves when he feels inspired. He spends when he feels exhausted. He checks his account only when anxiety gets loud enough. Every month he tells himself, I need to get organized. But organization feels like another job. And Victor already has a job that eats him alive. So he keeps doing what millions of people do. He manages money by reaction. Something is due, he pays it. Something breaks, he scrambles. Something feels stressful, he avoids it. Something feels good, he buys it. And then he wonders why peace never stays. This is the part nobody sees. A chaotic money life creates mental noise even when nothing bad is happening. You can be watching a movie and still feel a background hum of dread. You can be at dinner and still wonder if a payment cleared. You can be laughing with friends and still feel that small needle in your chest whispering, "You're not as okay as you look." That noise steals presence. It steals sleep, it steals patience. It makes you short with people who love you. It makes ordinary life feel heavier than it should, so the goal is not just wealth. The first goal is quiet. You need a calm money system. Not a complicated one, not a perfect one. A calm one. A system that tells every dollar where to go before your emotions start negotiating. A system that makes the important things automatic and the impulsive things slower. A system that gives your mind fewer chances to betray your future. Here is the first rule: money must move on payday before desire wakes up. That is the cleanest way to say it. When money lands in your account, it should not sit there waiting for your mood to decide its purpose. Some goes to bills, some goes to emergency margin, some goes to debt, some goes to investing when you are ready, some goes to spending. But each dollar needs a job before the weekend, before stress, before Amazon, before DoorDash, before the text that says, "We should go out tonight." Because unassigned money becomes emotional money, and emotional money disappears. Victor changes his life by creating what he calls his payday map. Nothing fancy, just a simple plan. Account 1, bills, rent, utilities, insurance, phone, car payment, minimum debt payments. Account 2, protection. Emergency fund, future repairs, medical costs, anything that keeps life from turning into panic. Account 3, growth, debt payoff above the minimum, skill development, investing, business tools, certifications. Account 4, life. Groceries, gas, fun, restaurants, small wants. The magic is not in the account names, the magic is in separation. Because when all your money sits in one place, your brain lies to you. You look at the balance and think, "I have money." But you do not really know how much of that money already belongs to rent, bills, debt, groceries, and future problems. One big checking account creates fake confidence. Then the real bills arrive and punish you for believing it. Separation creates clarity. Clarity creates calm. Calm creates better decisions, but this is where most people fail again. They build a system that is too strict. No fun. No flexibility, no room for real life, and then the first stressful week breaks it. A good money system should not make you feel like a prisoner, it should make you feel protected. That means you need guilt-free spending money. Yes. Guilt-free because if your system does not include permission, you will steal permission later. You will rebel against your own plan. You will say, "Forget it," and buy something just to feel human again. So give yourself a category for living. Not unlimited, not careless, but real. Coffee, dinner, movies, clothes, small pleasures, a night out. This matters because financial control is not about becoming a machine. It is about becoming honest. You are a human being, you need joy. You need breathing room, you need small rewards. The difference is that controlled joy is chosen. Chaotic joy is escaped into. That one difference changes everything. A calm money system has 3 weekly rituals. The first is the 5-minute check. Once or twice a week, you open your accounts and simply look. No drama, no shame, no pretending. You check what came in, what went out, what is upcoming, and whether anything looks strange. 5 minutes. That small habit kills financial monsters before they grow teeth. The second ritual is the 10-minute reset. Once a week you ask, what needs attention before it becomes a problem? Maybe a bill is coming. Maybe groceries are running high. Maybe you overspent on restaurants. Maybe a subscription needs to die. Maybe your car registration is due next month. The reset is where you catch the small leaks. Because small leaks are easier than flooded rooms. The third ritual is the monthly review. 30 minutes, once a month, you look at the whole picture. Income, spending, debt, savings, progress, mistakes, patterns, not to punish yourself, to learn. A calm money system is not built on perfection. It is built on feedback. That is how serious people improve. They do not guess forever. They review reality. Before we move on, do something simple. Comment the word system if you are done trying to manage money only with stress and memory. Comment it if you are ready to build a financial life that protects you even on the days you feel tired. Because the goal is not to become obsessed with money. The goal is to think about money less because you finally gave it structure. That is what people misunderstand. Financial discipline does not make money your whole life. Financial chaos does. Chaos forces you to think about money constantly. Discipline lets money take its proper place. A tool, a structure, a support system, not a daily emotional emergency. Victor knows his system is working the first time payday comes, and he does not feel excited in the old reckless way. He feels steady. The money arrives, the bills account fills, the emergency fund gets fed, the debt payment moves. The spending amount is clear, and for the first time in years, payday does not feel like permission to escape. It feels like evidence that he is becoming an adult he can trust. That is quiet power, not flashy, not viral. Not impressive to strangers, but deeply impressive to the only person who has to live inside your life. You, Chapter 9 ends with this truth: you do not rise to the level of your money goals, you fall to the strength of your money system. So build a system calm enough to repeat, simple enough to trust, flexible enough to survive real life, and strong enough to protect your future when your emotions try to spend it. Chapter 10 Thought for a second. Chapter 10 The identity that spends your money. Who are you trying to prove you are? That question is uncomfortable because it cuts deeper than budgeting. Most people think spending is about wants: a nicer car, a better apartment, a new phone, a clean outfit, a dinner out, a vacation that looks better online than it felt in real life. But underneath many purchases is something more private, a sentence. I'm not behind, I'm doing okay, I'm not poor anymore, I'm successful now, I deserve to be seen differently. And once spending becomes proof of identity, money stops being a tool, it becomes a costume. This is one of the quietest ways people stay trapped. They are not only paying bills, they are paying for an image. They are not only buying products, they are buying emotional evidence. Evidence that they matter, evidence that they made it. Evidence that the struggle did not embarrass them. Evidence that people who doubted them were wrong. And that kind of spending is hard to stop because it does not feel irresponsible. It feels personal. It feels like dignity. But this is where most people fail. They confuse looking upgraded with becoming free. Those are not the same life. Looking upgraded usually costs money. Becoming free usually requires restraint. Looking upgraded wants attention now. Becoming free builds power quietly. Looking upgraded asks, what will people think? Becoming free asks, what will this cost my future? That question alone can save a life. Picture a man named Andre. Andre is 31, living in Los Angeles. He grew up with very little, not dramatic movie poverty, but the kind of quiet lack that stays in your body. He remembers his mom putting groceries back at checkout. He remembers pretending not to care about shoes other kids had. He remembers birthday parties where he felt embarrassed by the gift he brought. He remembers the first time someone made a joke about his clothes and everyone laughed. That stuff does not disappear when you start making money. It hides, then it comes back as taste. Andre gets a good job in media operations. His income rises. For the first time, he can buy things without asking anyone. And buying feels like revenge, not against one person, against the old feeling. The feeling of being small. So Andre upgrades everything: the apartment, the sneakers, the restaurants, the car lease, the watch, the gym. The weekend trips, the expensive haircut. Every purchase whispers, you are not that kid anymore. And for a while it works. People compliment him, friends say he is doing well, Instagram looks clean, his old insecurity gets quiet. But only for a moment, because identity wounds do not heal through receipts, they demand more proof. The first nice watch feels powerful, then it becomes normal. The first luxury dinner feels exciting, then it becomes expected. The first apartment upgrade feels like arrival, then it becomes the new baseline. This is the part nobody sees. When you use money to repair shame, the repair expires quickly. You have to keep buying the feeling again and again and again. That is why some people make more money and still feel emotionally broke. Their income increased, but their inner story did not. Deep down, Andre is still trying to convince himself he is enough. He just has better lighting now. This is not about judging him, it is about understanding him, because almost everyone has a version of this. Some people spend to look successful, some spend to feel attractive. Some spend to feel generous because they are afraid of disappointing people. Some spend to feel independent. Some spend to show their family they escaped. Some spend to keep up with coworkers. Some spend because saying no makes them feel poor again. The behavior is financial. The root is emotional, and until you identify the emotional root, the budget will always feel like an attack. Because when the spreadsheet says, cut this expense, your nervous system hears, go back to feeling small. That is why people sabotage their own plans. They are not just protecting a purchase. They are protecting an identity. But this is where the transformation begins. You must create an identity that does not need expensive evidence. A calm identity, a private identity, a stronger identity, one that says, I do not need strangers to believe I am winning. I do not need my lifestyle to explain my worth. I do not need every raise to become visible. I can be powerful quietly. That last sentence matters, quiet power. Most people do not want wealth. They want visible relief. They want life to finally look different enough that the pain feels justified, but visible relief is dangerous. Because the more your progress needs to be seen, the easier it is to sell you things. Marketers know this. Social media knows this. Luxury brands know this. Credit card companies know this. They are not just selling products. They are selling identity shortcuts. Buy this and become the person. But the person you want to become cannot be purchased. He has to be practiced. Andre begins changing when he asks one question before every non-essential purchase. Who am I trying to become with this? Not can I afford it, not do I deserve it, not will people like it. Who am I trying to become with this? Sometimes the answer is healthy. I'm becoming someone who takes care of his body. I'm becoming someone who dresses with intention. I'm becoming someone who enjoys life within limits. Good, that is conscious spending, but sometimes the answer exposes the wound. I'm trying to look richer than I feel. I'm trying to prove I'm not behind. I'm trying to make someone respect me. I'm trying to escape a bad day. That is not a purchase. That is a confession. And confessions are useful if you listen. But this is where most people fail again. They discover the emotional pattern and then shame themselves for having it. Do not do that. You are not weak because money became emotional. You are human. Money touches survival, status, safety, love, control, freedom, dignity, and fear. Of course it becomes emotional. The goal is not to remove emotion from money. The goal is to stop letting wounded emotion drive the car. You can still enjoy nice things. You can still buy quality. You can still travel, dress well, eat well, celebrate, and build a beautiful life. But those things must come from overflow, not insecurity. Overflow says, this fits the life I am building. Insecurity says, this will make people see me differently. Overflow feels calm. Insecurity feels urgent. That is how you know. The strongest financial move Andre makes is not canceling a subscription or selling the car, although those help. The strongest move is private. He stops needing his progress to be immediately visible. He starts building what nobody can see: emergency savings, debt reduction, skill development, better sleep, cleaner habits, a calmer schedule, real conversations, a future that does not need applause. At first, it feels strange. Because quiet progress does not give the same quick hit as visible spending. But over time, something deeper replaces the hit: self-respect. The kind that does not disappear when nobody likes your post. The kind that does not depend on someone noticing your shoes. The kind that grows when you know your real life is becoming stronger even if your image becomes simpler. That is maturity, not boring maturity, powerful maturity. The ability to choose future freedom over present performance. So here is the lesson of Chapter 10. Your money will always follow your identity. If you see yourself as behind, you will spend to catch up. If you see yourself as overlooked, you will spend to be noticed. If you see yourself as deprived, you will spend to feel compensated. If you see yourself as powerless, you will spend for a temporary sense of control. But if you see yourself as a builder, everything changes. A builder does not need every dollar to entertain him. A builder gives dollars assignments. A builder can enjoy life without letting enjoyment destroy the foundation. A builder knows the difference between a reward and a relapse. A builder does not ask, "How do I look this month?" A builder asks, "What am I becoming this year?" That question is the key. Because when your identity changes, discipline stops feeling like punishment. It starts feeling like alignment. You are not saying no because you hate life. You are saying no because you finally respect the life you are building. And that is a completely different kind of control. Chapter 10 ends with this truth: the most expensive thing you can buy is not a car, a house, a watch, or a vacation. The most expensive thing you can buy is an identity you cannot afford to maintain. So stop purchasing proof. Start building power, quietly, patiently, deliberately. Because the strongest version of you will not need to look rich before he becomes free. Chapter 11. Thought for a second. Chapter 11. The people who keep you poor, who benefits from the old version of you? That question sounds harsh. But it is necessary, because not every financial pattern lives inside your wallet. Some patterns live inside your relationships. The friend who always wants to spend. The coworker who mocks your ambition. The family member who treats your progress like betrayal. The group chat that turns every weekend into a bill. The people who only like you when you stay available, tired, and easy to influence. And this is where things get painful. Because sometimes the hardest part of changing your money life is not building discipline. It is disappointing people who were comfortable with your lack of discipline. Most people do not talk about this. They talk about budgets. They talk about income. They talk about investing. They talk about side hustles, but they skip the social pressure. And social pressure is expensive. It makes you say yes when your bank account needs no. It makes you split bills you cannot afford. It makes you attend events you do not enjoy. It makes you loan money to people who never repay you. It makes you keep lifestyles, habits, and friendships that quietly tax your future. This is where most people fail. They think financial boundaries are about money. They are not. Financial boundaries are about identity. A person with no boundaries is silently asking the world for permission to keep their own life intact. And the world is usually too busy wanting things from you to grant that permission, so you have to take it. Picture a woman named Maya. Maya is 28, living in Brooklyn, working in marketing. She is ambitious, smart, and finally trying to get serious about her money. She has credit card debt. She has almost no emergency fund. She wants to build a better career. She knows she needs focus. But every weekend, the same pressure returns. Brunch, drinks, birthdays, Ubers, concerts, trips, random plans that somehow cost $180 before the night even starts. Maya tells herself she will say no. Then the texts come in. Come on, you never go out anymore. You work too much. It's just one night. You deserve to have fun. And the most dangerous one, don't be boring. That line gets her. Because nobody wants to feel boring at 28. Nobody wants to feel like the responsible one while everyone else seems free. So Maya goes, she laughs, she posts, she spends. She comes home at 1:17 a.m. and checks her account with one eye half closed. Then shame enters quietly, not dramatic shame, just that small sinking feeling. I did it again. This is the part nobody sees. A lot of people are not spending because they want the thing. They are spending because they do not want the social consequence of saying no. They are buying belonging, and belonging is one of the strongest human needs there is. So if you want to change your money, you cannot only ask, what do I spend on? You have to ask, who makes it hard for me to stop? That question will reveal more than any budget app. Some people are not bad people. They are just attached to the version of you that matches their habits. If they overspend, your discipline makes them uncomfortable. If they avoid growth, your ambition feels like judgment. If they complain but never change, your progress threatens the group agreement. Every social circle has invisible rules. Do not rise too fast. Do not change too much. Do not make us feel behind. Do not remind us we are choosing this. Nobody says those rules out loud, but break them and you will feel the resistance. A joke, a little sarcasm, a guilt trip. You think you're better now? A sudden coldness when you start taking yourself seriously. But this is where most people fail again. They think every uncomfortable reaction means they are doing something wrong. Sometimes it means the opposite. Sometimes resistance is proof that your identity is changing. The old environment is trying to pull you back into the old pattern. That does not mean you need to cut everyone off. Do not turn growth into arrogance. You do not need to become cold. You do not need to announce your new era like you are starring in a documentary. You just need boundaries. Quiet ones, clear ones, repeated ones. I'm not spending on that right now. I'm staying in tonight. I'm focused on paying some things down. I can meet for coffee instead. I'm not lending money. I'm free Saturday afternoon, but I'm skipping the expensive dinner. Simple. No speech, no apology, no long explanation that gives people something to debate. A boundary is not a courtroom. You do not need to prove your case. Maya changes when she stops saying, I can't afford it. That sentence makes her feel small. Instead, she says, that's not part of my plan right now. Notice the difference. I can't afford it sounds like weakness. That's not part of my plan sounds like leadership. Same no, different identity. And the more she says it, the easier it becomes. At first, people tease her. Then they adjust. Some friends respect it, some disappear, and that hurts. But it also teaches her something important. Access is not loyalty. Some people only had access to the version of her who always said yes. When that version changed, the connection changed too. Painful? Yes. Necessary? Also yes, because if your relationships require you to betray your future, they are not relationships. They are subscriptions, and the monthly cost is your peace. Before we go further, take a second and comment one word: boundaries. Write it if you know your next level requires a stronger no. Write it if you are done letting guilt spend your money. Write it if you are ready to protect the life you are building, even when people do not understand it. Because here is the truth: every serious transformation has a social price. When you stop drinking every weekend, someone notices. When you stop wasting money, someone notices. When you stop answering every call, someone notices. When you start studying, saving, building, training, and protecting your time, someone notices. And not everyone will celebrate. That is okay. You are not building a life that everyone can understand from the outside. You are building a life you can finally respect from the inside. There is a quiet kind of loneliness that comes with growth. Not permanent loneliness, transitional loneliness. The old crowd no longer fits the same way. The new crowd has not fully arrived yet, so for a while you may feel between worlds. This is where many people run back. They miss the comfort of being known, even if being known meant being stuck. Do not run back too quickly. That empty space is not punishment. It is room for better habits, room for healthier people, room for deeper friendships. Room for mentors, room for peace, room for the version of yourself who was always being drowned out by noise. Your social circle should not only entertain your present, it should protect your future. That does not mean every friend needs to be rich, productive, or ambitious in the same way. But the people close to you should respect your direction. They should not need your self-sabotage to feel comfortable. They should be able to hear your no without turning it into a personal attack. They should be able to watch you grow without trying to shrink you back down. And you should become that person for others too. Growth is not just leaving bad influence, it is becoming better influence. The kind of person who can say, "I'm proud of you for getting serious. Let's do something cheaper. Stay focused. Don't buy that just because you're stressed. I'll check in on your goal next week." That kind of friendship is rare. But when you find it, your life gets lighter, because discipline becomes easier when your environment stops fighting it. Chapter 11 ends with this truth: your money is not only shaped by your habits. It is shaped by the people who normalize those habits. So choose carefully, not cruelly, carefully, because the wrong circle will make survival feel normal, but the right circle will make self-control feel possible. And sometimes the most powerful financial decision you will ever make is learning who no longer gets to influence your yes. Chapter 12, the quiet power of becoming boring. What if the life that saves you looks boring at first? That is hard for most people to accept, because we live in a culture that makes chaos look exciting. Fast money, fast bodies. Fast success, fast transformations, fast exits, fast flexes. Everything is sold as a breakthrough: the viral business, the sudden glow-up, the overnight confidence, the shocking comeback, the one decision that changes everything. And because of that, discipline starts to look unattractive. Saving money looks boring, cooking at home looks boring, studying after work looks boring, tracking expenses looks boring, going to bed on time looks boring. Saying no to weekend spending looks boring, building one skill for months looks painfully boring. But here is the uncomfortable truth: most people stay trapped because they are addicted to excitement. Not joy, excitement. There is a difference. Joy makes life deeper, excitement makes life louder. Joy can sit quietly at a kitchen table with a paid bill, a calm mind, and a plan. Excitement needs stimulation: another purchase, another notification, another plan, another risk. Another drama, another reason to avoid the silence. And silence is where the truth waits. That is why becoming financially stable often feels boring in the beginning. You are removing the drama your nervous system got used to. You are no longer using spending to create emotional spikes. You are no longer using distraction to escape discomfort. You are no longer using social pressure as an excuse. You are no longer waiting for panic to tell you what matters, so life gets quieter. And at first, quiet can feel like emptiness. Picture a man named Tyler. Tyler is 36, living in Denver, working in commercial insurance. For years, his life was a loop of pressure and release. Work hard all week. Spend hard on the weekend, promise to change on Sunday night, wake up tired on Monday, repeat. He was not reckless in an obvious way. He paid his rent. He kept his job, he showed up, he looked fine, but his life had no calm center. Every week needed some kind of escape. Drinks with coworkers, new gear, a road trip he could not really afford. Sports betting just for fun. Late night shopping, food delivery because cooking felt like defeat. Then Tyler starts changing. He builds a basic money system. He protects 1 hour after work. He starts paying down debt. He saves a small emergency fund. He says no to 2 expensive weekends in a row, and instead of feeling instantly powerful, he feels strange, restless, almost disappointed. Because the old chaos gave him something. It gave him emotional contrast, stress then relief, pressure then pleasure, shame then escape, fear then spending. When he removed the escape, he had to feel the stress underneath. This is where most people fail. They think boredom means the plan is not working, but boredom is often withdrawal from chaos. Your nervous system is learning how to live without constant stimulation. That process does not always feel inspiring. Sometimes it feels flat. Sometimes it feels lonely. Sometimes it feels like you are missing out while everyone else is having a better life. But most of what you are missing out on is not freedom. It is noise. Noise you used to call fun because you did not yet know what peace felt like. This is the part nobody sees. Stability has an emotional adjustment period. When you stop creating problems, part of you will look for problems. When you stop overspending, part of you will look for a reason to break the plan. When you stop chasing approval, part of you will wonder if you disappeared. When you stop living in emergency mode, part of you may feel useless because survival was your identity for so long. That does not mean you are broken. It means your mind is recalibrating. You are moving from adrenaline to intention, and intention is quieter, but it is stronger. The strongest lives often look unimpressive from the outside for a long time. A person goes to work, comes home, studies, exercises, tracks money, saves, sleeps, repeats, nothing flashy, no dramatic announcement, no viral moment. But underneath that ordinary routine, something powerful is happening. Debt is shrinking. Skills are growing, health is returning, confidence is becoming real, the emergency fund is getting stronger. The nervous system is calming down, the future is becoming less scary. That is not boring, that is construction. The problem is that construction does not look like completion. When a building is being built, most of the work looks ugly. Steel, dust, noise, concrete, scaffolding, half-finished rooms. Nobody takes wedding photos at a construction site. But without that stage, the finished building never exists. Your life works the same way. There will be a season where progress looks like less spending, less partying, less proving, less explaining, less chaos, less instant pleasure. But less is not always loss, sometimes less is space, and space is where the new life gets built. But this is where most people fail again. They compare their construction season to someone else's highlight reel. They see the vacation, the car, the dinner, the new apartment, the promotion, the smiling photo, and they forget that a lot of people are performing peace they do not actually possess. You do not know who is financing the image. You do not know who is losing sleep. You do not know who is one emergency away from panic. You do not know who is smiling in public and calculating minimum payments in private. So stop measuring your invisible progress against someone else's visible theater. Your job is not to look free. Your job is to become free. That means accepting seasons that do not impress anyone. A season of saying no. A season of paying things down. A season of studying while nobody notices. A season of driving the old car. A season of cooking at home. A season of rebuilding quietly. A season of becoming boring enough to become powerful. Tyler eventually learns to respect the boring season. Friday night changes. Instead of spending $140 just to feel alive, he makes dinner, reviews his money, takes a walk, and studies for a certification. At first, it feels like punishment. Then it feels like control. Then it feels like peace. And one night, months later, he notices something while brushing his teeth. He is not anxious. Nothing special happened. No huge raise, no miracle, no dramatic breakthrough. He just feels steady. That is when he realizes the boring life was not stealing from him. It was giving him back to himself. This is the quiet power most people never wait long enough to experience. The reward of discipline is not only future money. It is present calm, the ability to wake up without immediate dread, the ability to look at your account without flinching, the ability to say no without feeling poor, the ability to enjoy simple things because your nervous system is no longer screaming for escape. That is wealth before wealth, and it matters. Because if you cannot feel peace in simple stability, you will not feel peace in expensive success. You will simply carry the same restless mind into a better-looking life. So Chapter 12 is not about doing something dramatic. It is about trusting the quiet season. The season where nobody claps. The season where progress is mostly private. The season where your old identity gets bored because it no longer has chaos to feed on. Let it be bored. You are not here to entertain the old version of yourself. You are here to outgrow him. And outgrowing him will require repetition. Same habits, same standards, same boundaries, same protected hour, same money review, same small deposits, same uncomfortable honesty, again and again and again. Until one day, the thing that used to require discipline becomes normal. That is when you know the identity has changed, not when you feel motivated, not when you make a speech, not when people notice. But when the new behavior becomes your default. Chapter 12 ends with this truth: a chaotic life can look exciting while quietly destroying you. A disciplined life can look boring while quietly setting you free. Choose the boring season. Protect it, respect it. Because in the final chapter, we are going to bring everything together and answer the question that has been underneath this entire journey. What does real financial freedom actually feel like when you stop chasing escape and finally start living with control? Chapter 13, Thought for Tens. Chapter 13, The Life You Stop Escaping From. What does freedom actually feel like? Most people imagine it wrong. They picture a beach, a bigger house, a perfect bank account. A life with no stress, no problems, no bills, no hard conversations, and no ordinary Tuesday mornings. But that is fantasy. Real freedom is quieter. Real freedom is waking up and not immediately feeling behind. Real freedom is opening your bank app without your chest tightening. Real freedom is saying no without guilt. Real freedom is having a car problem and being annoyed instead of destroyed. Real freedom is working because you chose a direction, not because panic has a gun to your head. That is the life we have been building toward, not a life without responsibility, a life with control. Because control is what most people are really craving. They think they want more money, and they do. But underneath the money, they want relief from the feeling that life is always one step ahead of them. They want to stop reacting. Stop hiding, stop pretending, stop using spending as therapy, stop waiting for someday, stop living like every paycheck is a rescue boat. This is where everything comes together. You do not escape financial anxiety through one heroic move, you escape it through architecture, a money system, a stronger identity, a protected attention span, a valuable skill, a quieter lifestyle, a real emergency fund. A circle that respects your future, a willingness to face truth without shame. None of these things are flashy, but together they rebuild a person. Picture Marcus again, the man from chapter 1. The man sitting in his car at the red light, tired, responsible, and quietly wondering why life still felt so heavy. He did not become free overnight. At first, nothing looked different. Same job, same house, same bills, same traffic. Same tired body coming home after work. But inside, something changed. He stopped calling his exhaustion normal. He stopped treating every paycheck like emotional oxygen. He stopped spending to prove he was okay. He looked at the numbers, he built margin. He protected 1 hour. He chose one skill. He stopped explaining every no. He let life become a little boring. And slowly the cage weakened. This is the part nobody sees. Transformation often looks unimpressive while it is happening. You may still be driving the same car, still wearing the same clothes, still working the same job, still living in the same apartment. But under the surface, the foundation is changing, debt is lower, savings are higher, impulses are weaker, focus is stronger, shame is quieter, your future is less fragile. That is not small, that is the beginning of ownership. Because the opposite of being broke is not being rich. The opposite of being broke is being unowned, not owned by panic, not owned by appearances, not owned by random urges, not owned by people who need you undisciplined. Not owned by an employer because you have no other skill. Not owned by shame because you refuse to look. Not owned by chaos because you finally built margin. That is real self-mastery, but this is where most people fail. They reach the first sign of progress and start negotiating with the old life. They pay down one card and start spending again. They build a small emergency fund and raid it for comfort. They focus for 2 weeks and then reward themselves with 3 weeks of distraction. They say no for a month and then let guilt drag them back. The old identity does not disappear politely. It waits. It waits for stress. It waits for loneliness. It waits for boredom. It waits for one hard day when you feel like nothing is changing fast enough. And then it whispers just this once. That is why freedom must become a practice, not a mood. You will not always feel disciplined. You will not always feel inspired. You will not always feel strong. So you need rules that protect you when feelings become unreliable. The system protects the future when the mood wants escape. The identity protects the system when life gets loud. And the purpose protects the identity when nobody is watching. So ask yourself, what kind of person am I becoming? Not what do I want to buy, not what do I want people to think, not how fast can I look successful. What kind of person am I becoming? A person who hides, or a person who faces truth, a person who reacts, or a person who pauses, a person who spends for proof, or a person who builds quiet power. A person who waits for rescue, or a person who creates control? That question will follow you after this video ends. It will follow you the next time you want to avoid your numbers. It will follow you when friends pressure you to spend. It will follow you when payday hits and desire wakes up. It will follow you when you are tired after work and your future asks for one protected hour. And in that moment, your answer will not be spoken. It will be chosen. That is the final lesson. Your life changes through choices that look too small to matter. Checking the account, cooking at home, sending the application, studying for 1 hour, making the payment, saving the first $50, saying no. Going to sleep, looking at the truth, doing the boring thing again. Each choice is a vote, and eventually the votes become identity. The identity becomes behavior, the behavior becomes results. The results become freedom, not instant freedom. Earned freedom, the kind nobody can sell you, the kind nobody can fake for you, the kind that grows from the private agreement you make with yourself. I am done escaping my life. I am going to build one I do not need to escape from. That sentence is the whole journey, because a life you constantly escape from will always be expensive. Expensive in money, expensive in attention, expensive in health. Expensive in relationships, expensive in years you never get back. But a life you build with control becomes lighter over time. Not easy, lighter. Problems still come, bills still arrive, people still disappoint you. Work still gets stressful, the economy still changes, life still throws punches, but now you are different. You are not standing there with no margin, no system, no plan, no skill, no boundaries, and no awareness. You are not the same person who started this journey. You are becoming someone who can absorb reality without collapsing, someone who can see clearly, someone who can wait, someone who can build, someone who can choose. That is freedom. Before we close, write one word in the comments: control. Write it if you are done living by reaction. Write it if you are ready to build margin, discipline, skill, and peace. Write it if the next version of your life will not be built on panic. Because this is not just about money. Money is only the doorway. This is about becoming the kind of person who can be trusted with more income, more responsibility, more opportunity, more peace, more life. And when that person is built, money starts to feel different, not like a master, not like a monster, not like a scoreboard, not like proof that you matter. It becomes what it was always supposed to be: a tool to protect your family, a tool to buy back time, a tool to create options, a tool to reduce fear, a tool to support the life your values already chose. Chapter 13 ends with this truth: financial freedom is not the moment you never have problems again. Financial freedom is the moment your problems stop owning you. And that moment begins when you stop chasing escape and start building control. Final US YouTube Packaging 1, 10 Titles 1. You're not broke, your mind is trapped in survival mode 2. The Money Psychology Keeping You Stuck Every Month 3. Why Working Harder Still Doesn't Make You Free 4. Break the Paycheck Cage, The Psychology of Financial Control 5. The Hidden Pattern That Keeps Smart People Broke 6. Stop escaping your life, build money, discipline, and peace. 7. Financial freedom starts when you stop reacting. 8. The quiet money system that changes your life. 9. Why more money won't save the same mindset. 10. Rebuild your money, focus, and self-control from scratch. 2. 10 thumbnail texts. 1. You're not lazy. 2. This is the trap. 3. Money isn't the problem. 4. Stop living like this. 5. Your mind is leaking. 6. The paycheck cage. 7. Build quiet power. 8. Escape survival mode. 9. Control changes everything. 10. You need this truth. 3. 10 book cover texts. 1. The psychology of escaping financial survival mode. 2. Build control before you chase more money. 3. Stop spending your life to feel safe. 4. The quiet discipline that rebuilds your future. 5. Why smart people stay financially stuck. 6. Master your money by mastering yourself first. 7. A calm system for a chaotic financial life. 8. The inner game of financial freedom. 9. How to stop reacting and start building. 10. Turn paycheck anxiety into personal power. 4. SEO description. You are tired, but you are not lazy. Something deeper is happening. This original long-form audio essay explores the money psychology behind financial anxiety, paycheck stress, emotional spending, lack of discipline, distraction, shame, and the quiet survival patterns that keep millions of Americans feeling stuck. This is not another generic motivational speech. This is a cinematic self-improvement masterclass about why working harder often does not create freedom, why more income does not always create peace, and why smart, capable people can still feel trapped inside the same financial loop every month. If you have ever worked hard, paid your bills, tried to be responsible, and still felt like life was one emergency away from falling apart, this audiobook-style video was made for you. The core problem is not only money. The real problem is the pattern. A pattern where your paycheck becomes emotional oxygen. A pattern where stress turns into spending. A pattern where shame makes you avoid your numbers. A pattern where distraction steals the focus required to build a better life. A pattern where lifestyle inflation quietly consumes every raise. A pattern where social pressure makes you betray your future. A pattern where you keep waiting to feel ready before taking control. This video breaks down that pattern step by step. You will learn why financial freedom starts with awareness, not income. You will understand why emotional spending is often an attempt to buy relief, not luxury. You will see how lifestyle inflation turns progress into pressure. You will discover why shame keeps people from checking their bank accounts, facing debt, or building a real money system. You will also learn why attention is your first currency. Before you can build wealth, you need focus. Before you can increase income, you need the ability to sit down and improve a valuable skill. Before you can control your money, you need to control the mind that handles your money. This video covers the hidden relationship between discipline, self-trust, and financial control. It explains why procrastination is not just laziness but often emotional protection. It shows how delay creates a hidden debt in your life, costing you money, confidence, opportunity, and time. You will also hear real-life American scenarios about job stress, credit card debt, rent pressure, car repairs, family responsibility, social spending, and the quiet loneliness of trying to change while your environment keeps pulling you back. This is a video for people who are tired of pretending they are fine. It is for the person sitting in the car after work, wondering why they feel so drained. It is for the person who avoids checking their account because they already know it will hurt. It is for the person who earns more than they used to but still feels behind. It is for the person who wants discipline but keeps escaping into scrolling, spending, or comfort. It is for the person who knows they are capable of more but feels trapped in survival mode. The solution is not fake hype. The solution is control. Control over attention, control over spending, control over emotional reactions. Control over your environment, control over your skill development, control over your social boundaries, control over the money system that protects you when motivation disappears. This audio essay walks through a complete transformation journey. First, you recognize the paycheck cage. You understand that the cage is not only low income, it is dependence. It is the feeling that your nervous system lives from deposit to deposit. Then you confront the lifestyle trap. You learn why more money feels good at first, then becomes normal, then disappears into a bigger version of the same stress. Next, you begin building a valuable skill, not random hustle, not chasing trends. A skill connected to a painful problem, a paying market, and your ability to become unusually good. Then, you protect your attention. You stop letting apps, algorithms, entertainment, and fake productivity steal the focus that could change your future. After that, you face shame. You learn to separate your numbers from your identity. Your debt is data. Your spending is data, your income is data. Data can guide you. Shame only traps you, then you break the debt of delay. You stop waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect plan, or the perfect version of yourself. You take small action before you feel ready. You build margin. You create space between your life and panic. You understand that an emergency fund is not just money. It is a boundary between one bad day and a broken month. You learn leverage. You stop trying to carry everything with effort alone and begin building skills, systems, people, support, and assets that multiply your work. You create a calm money system. You give every dollar a job before desire wakes up. You automate, separate, review, and simplify until money becomes less emotional and more structured. You examine identity. You stop buying proof that you are successful, respected, attractive, or no longer behind. You learn to build quiet power instead of expensive appearances. You set boundaries. You stop letting guilt, friends, family pressure, and social expectations spend your money for you. Then you accept the boring season. You understand that stability may look unimpressive at first, but